Hello, listener. There's a lot of stuff going on with society. Things we either think about every day of our lives or things we hardly pay any attention to. So welcome to a show where I give a commentary about our society along with my honest perspective on it. My name is Red, and you're listening to Red's Perspective. So it feels great to finally kick off this show, this podcast. I've been really wanting to do it for a long time. It's time to go forward with the first episode. Driving has really become an essential part of everyone's life in today's society. At some point in time, though, there's a need for vehicular transportation. It don't matter how much you avoid driving or vehicles in general, you're going to end up needing to accomplish an important task by vehicular transportation. That's just the way it is. And not everybody has a vehicle, or they just don't have the privilege of being able to operate a vehicle by themselves. Would those people, in fact, be the lucky ones, seeing how they're still in a vehicle? I would say no. They're no more fortunate than the person driving the vehicle. I know that's quite a perspective for me to have on one of the greatest freedoms that you can have in life, but I'll dive deeper into that soon. But the ability to get up, start your vehicle, and go wherever you want to go is a great freedom to have. It sucks when you just want to get out of the house, get away, and the only wheels you have is your bike. I mean, if you don't have a bike, then I guess you're walking. And let it be known that not a lot of roads out there are bicycle friendly, which sucks. Now, when you get to those big cities, they're really starting to embrace the bicycle thing. But anyways, having your own vehicle is awesome when you want to travel long distances on your own schedule. You make the decisions. It's really a great freedom to have. Yet, driving is something I find very often sketchy nowadays. There are a lot of things going on with modern day drivers, and maybe just driving in general, that are steering me, ignore the pun, that are steering me away from wanting to drive long distance or even just down the road. Now, most of all, I'm very cautious of using my signal. I make sure to always use my signal when it's needed, which sadly, not all the drivers out there know how to do that. As you drive on the more populated highways, you see this more often. It's just crazy. You might see it on these desolate highways. Now, don't get me wrong, though. A lot of drivers also know how to use their signals. Like I said, I know how to use mine, and there are plenty of other responsible drivers that do the same. I've seen all kinds of vehicles out on the highways that use their signals properly. It's very important for any driver to use their signal lights. Just somebody who knows to let the other drivers know, hey, I'm going to shift to another lane or take a turn right here. That way you know to hit the brakes. That way we don't have a fender bender on our hands. So for all you drivers out there who love driving, or you can tolerate it on a day-to-day basis, despite all the crazy stuff happening out there on the roadways, bear with me. I've got some close encounters to tell you all about. The first one deals with a school bus. A few days ago, I was going up this gradual curve on this short hill. And this curve, it's big enough to the point a school bus going in any direction doesn't need to cut over that yellow line, just even in the slightest, to make that curve. Like, it's that big of a curve, they can stay in their lane throughout the whole process. And I was going up this curve, and here comes a school bus in the opposite direction. It was 2 feet over the yellow line, crossing into my lane. I had to shift over to the right just to clear it. And even as the school bus was about to pass me by, the driver made no effort to get over into the correct lane. So that was a close call, and I believe if that school bus would have crossed over into my lane any further, I would have hit the ditch. I gave a friendly little parting gesture to the school bus when it went by, and Right after that, an F-150 passed me. Now, the next story involves a black Charger daringly passing a line of vehicles in a 55-mile-per-hour zone. I was 6 seconds away from this Charger. I could see it in the distance, making its way past this line of vehicles. The driver obviously didn't take into consideration oncoming traffic because I was 6 seconds away from the person. I had to instantly go from 55 miles per hour to like 28 miles per hour just so I didn't hit this person head on. And I just said to myself, man, what's going on with the drivers nowadays? Who does that? It was pretty daring, to say the least. So my final story involves me going down this hauler road in my pickup truck, a small pickup truck, a Ford Ranger 2007. If you know anything about haulers in the wintertime, they can get pretty rough. You could get 1 to 2 feet of snow, and when the sunny days come along and melt the snow a little, it freezes in the ice on the roadways during the evening time, which makes it really hard for people living up in the woods to navigate the road until the snowplow comes by. Anyways, there was ice on the road, and you guessed it, I was going downhill in my pickup truck, 18 miles per hour, and I apply the brakes gradually, and I start feeling sliding. So I fully depressed the brakes. I'm still sliding, so I knew I was in trouble. Now, I could either keep going down, but it was going to be pretty hard. I was going to fishtail or something. So I made a desperation attempt. I engaged my emergency brake, which helped out a lot to slow me down while it's going downhill. And I turned to the right to go towards the side of the road and eventually slowed down. And I came to a stop. I guess somehow doing that emergency brake thing, it got the cable stuck and it was pinned like stuck. So my back wheels couldn't move. That was a rough time, but I got out of it. That was deterring for driving wise. That's just like a seasonal problem, but it kind of applied to my driving stuff too. So that's all the negative stories I have to tell. So hooray, I can go to a brighter side of things. So I'm going to use this whole situation that I went through. Being a native of West Virginia, I obviously had to get my driver's license in West Virginia. So I got a West Virginia's driver's license. I had to do the written exam and the driver's exam at a West Virginia Division of Motor Vehicles. And let me tell you something, that is one heck of a task. You got to make it your life goal to pass both of those exams, to get in the right mindset and study up clearly enough to pass both of those exams and get that driver's license. And let me tell you something, once you get that thing, it feels so great, and you will never forget the expiration date on that piece of plastic. The written exam, and it's probably the same in other states, being hard to pass the driver's test or the written exam. The written exam, what's tough about it is all these trick questions, and some of them involve details of common sense that the driver's handbook that you get a hold of to study, it doesn't care to mention these. Last time I checked, the handbook, it didn't mention a thing about if you see an ambulance behind you in your lane, it's flashing its lights, you gotta pull over to the side to let it go by. After years of driving, that's a no-brainer. But if you're a complete newbie to the game of driving, you're not going to know about this, more than likely. And there's even a trick question about a train crossing. And the lights are flashing, and it says the barriers aren't down, what do you do? And the correct answer was to drive slowly across the tracks, looking to make sure the train's not coming. Okay, that's a little more out of the usual for trick questions, and once again, something that the handbook didn't care to point out. Now, fast forward past the written exam, you pass it, and you do the driver's exam, getting that parallel parking down is one of their main concerns. If you can't get it down, you might as well kiss the rest of that examination goodbye. Like, you just gotta go back another day and take the driver's exam again. So it's very important to get that stuff down. And you also got to make proper lane changes. And you got to do it smoothly. One time, a test giver, she said I did it a little roughly. I didn't do the transition all that smooth the way she wanted. But I thought it was smooth enough. And I made the mistake of not taking a right on red at the right time, because I didn't know if that was exactly legal. That was another thing that the handbook didn't care to point out. And anyways, what I'm getting at is, once you go through that whole ordeal, passing the written exam with all those trick questions, passing the driver's exam to please the test givers, you finally get that West Virginia driver's license. All of those rules, all those safety precautions on how to be a good and flawless driver should be embedded within your brain. How come that whole spiel, going through the DMV to pass your exams and get that driver's license, how can one forget something as simple as turning on your signal light or just driving at the proper speed? It's a mystery to me. The ability to drive has gotten me places in my life. I was able to drive to a distant town on many occasions, drive to beautiful places like state parks, scenic locations like a raptor observatory, travel to my cooking job, all because of driving. I had the freedom to go whenever I wanted, to get out and travel to all these cool places on my own time by myself. That's independence, and that's freedom. And it's a beautiful thing to have. That's one great reason to appreciate driving, and it's probably one of the things that will keep persuading me to drive, despite all them bad things that happen out there. We got good drivers too, don't get me wrong. It's not all bad stuff and storm clouds. We got good drivers who actually follow the rules. I like it when I can go out and drive and everybody's doing it the right way. Using your signals, doing the proper lane change, all that good old stuff. Yeah, that's my view on driving. And when I start uploading these podcasts to YouTube, I'll have a platform where you, the listener, can leave your thoughts about the topics I talk about in these episodes in the comments. And I mean, heck, you could provide insights that I did not even touch on these episodes, a side that I didn't even think about. Or you could provide the opposite, the contrary. I would really love to hear the listeners' thoughts on these things. And I believe that's all the time I have. Thanks for tuning in. This has been your host, Red, and you've been listening to The Red Perspective. New episodes of Red's Perspective air every Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time.